You're watching the Maryland Players Show. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest. What an honor. What an honor. McDonald's All-American at DeMatha High, 3-year starter and captain at University of Maryland, 3-time honorable mention All-ACC, 3 NCAA tourney appearances, 2 Sweet 16s. Oh man, scored 1,123 points. That's good for top 50 all time in University of Maryland's history. 483 assists, number 7 all time. Pro career in China, Belgium, Italy, France, and the Dominican. Assistant coach at Bishop O'Connell High, head coach at St. Albans High, head coach at Sidwell Friends School where the Obama daughters went. I know you wasn't there during that time. You know, I know my boy, Coach Eric Singleton is holding it down now, but still, you know, you had a season there with a 16-0 record and the first conference title, won that first conference title in 40 years, man. Assistant coach at Townsend University and UNC Greensboro. You've been an associate head coach and currently assistant head coach at George Mason. Silver Waves Media ranked you in the top 50 impactful mid-major assistants in 2020. He serves on the A10 Commission for Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, as well as George Mason's Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Coach Duane Simpkins, man, welcome to the show. What a host of accomplishments, my man.
Man, you make it sound real good, man. I gotta check myself, man. I appreciate the welcome, man. That's awesome. I love it.
Oh man, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. You know, I see you around often, man, and it's always a pleasure. But I especially want to send some thanks out to you for joining me today. So let's get right into it, man. So you from Fort Washington, right? What was it like growing up for you in the Simpkins household?
Man, well, so we started off, grew up in Southeast DC, man, and my mom passed in '83, and 2 years later, my dad, man, if you know, man, I'm sure you know, man, DMV, DC in particular, man, at that point in time with crack on the streets and everything, my dad was like, man, I can't raise 2 boys by myself in the city. So man, he got the insurance money and we moved out to the county, man. And it was a shock to us because, you know, we grew up, you know, number 11 Boys and Girls Club, and I could walk 2 blocks and go to the gym and play football and all that stuff. And when we moved to PG County, there was no boys club. You know, there were boys club teams, but there wasn't an actual physical building that you could just go to, you know. So at the time, you know, me and my brother, man, who's 4 years older than me, it was a shock to our system. But, you know, it was, looking back on it right now, man, it was a tremendous blessing. So many of my team, my friends that I was close with during that time in DC, man, they're no longer with us, you know, or they're incarcerated, you know. So I think my dad, man, he made the executive decision, one we didn't like at the time for me and my brother, but looking back on it as a dad now and as an adult, man, it was a perfect decision.
Yeah, definitely worked out positive for you for sure, man. You see the list of accomplishments, and you're a relatively young guy, man, still going. So absolutely was the right decision. So how did your love for basketball, man? How did that come about?
You know, it came from you know, competing against my brother. You know, I started off, man, playing football. Football was my first love. Right. I love football, man. And my brother, he played baseball, football, and basketball. And obviously with basketball, man, all you need is a ball and a hoop. Yeah. And me and my brother, man, we would play one-on-one all the time. And he would beat me, Wiz, this is no exaggeration. He beat me every single time that we played up until the time I was 13 years old. I beat him that one time and we didn't play again since. But just competing against him, man, getting my butt kicked and just having a drive to like want to beat him. And it just made me work on my game. And I just developed a passion and a love for the game, man. It just came from there.
I can identify with that a little bit. I love watching football, not playing for sure. I love watching, even to this day. I'll probably watch a football game sometimes at the pro ranks, NFL game before an NBA game at times. I love it. I love the game for sure. So you played for the legendary Morgan Wooten at the Mather. You were on varsity as a freshman, man. Back in those days, that was unheard of. I think you might have been the third freshman ever to play varsity. What was it like getting into that kind of bump right out the gate?
Man, tremendous. I identified DeMatha as a place as an eighth grader. My dad, in large part, identified DeMatha as a place, man, that I could go and not only play, but play early. And I told Coach Wooten, I was an eighth grader at his camp, man. I remember this like it was yesterday. We were at Tacoma Academy. And I told him, I said, Coach, next year I come to DeMatha, I want to be a varsity basketball player. And he looked at me, he says, Duane, those are lofty goals. He said, if you can do a couple things, he said, one, if you can handle a basketball and get from point A to point B and not turn it over, if you can play defense, and if you can make free throws, you got a shot. And man, I already worked on my ball handling a ton, but that just made me work on my ball handling, man, like nobody's business. I mean, I would walk around with a basketball, dribbling left hand, right hand. And fortunately, fast forward my freshman year, a lot of people don't know this, but I was actually the last cut on varsity that year. I was last cut. He sent me down to freshman, didn't send me to JV. He sent me to the freshman team because we had a really good freshman class and he wanted us all to develop some chemistry playing together. And I played 5 games on freshman, man. We were beating teams by 50. Like it was crazy. We were so talented. And he told me before he sent me down to freshman, he says, hey, I want you to stay ready, prepare yourself, because at any point in time, we could bring you back up. Somebody could get injured. Somebody could be on academic probation. And I heeded those words, man. I worked really hard, stayed focused. And sure enough, the backup point guard on the varsity turned his ankle. And I'm sitting at home. This was like around Thanksgiving, I think. And I get a phone call. There were no cell phones then. The house phone rings. I answer it. It's Coach Wooten. And he says, Duane, where's your dad? I'm like, well, he's at work. He says, well, can you get in contact with him? He says, hey, we had an injury. We want to see if you can make this trip to, I think we're going to Pennsylvania to play in the showcase game. And I'm like, yeah, get on the phone with my dad. My dad comes, picks me up. And the next day, man, I'm actually in the game at crunch time, shooting 2 free throws. We're down 1 point. And man, it was, and that was pretty much it, man. I took off after that, man. But just every day being pushed to the limit. I looked at the math, and man, I was in awe of the place. I mean, knowing what I know now, I had panic attacks for the first couple of months every morning that I pulled into the parking lot, because I wanted to do so well, and I knew what it meant to be at a place like DeMatha. Yeah. But every day, man, it was tremendous. I didn't know it at the time that it was so much of a blessing that it was to be coached by somebody like Coach Wooten. I knew he was a really good coach and everything, but I didn't know at the time that this guy's going to be the first high school basketball coach in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Yeah, he was just Coach Wooten to me.
Yeah, top notch right there, top notch. So now you're at the University of Maryland. You're seeing a lot of success. Like I said earlier, 3 NCAA tournament appearances, 2 Sweet 16s. Going through that experience, what was your takeaways from that? And what did you learn about your teammates? Going through that experience. Johnny Rhodes and the boys.
Man, I tell you what, and you can speak to this. I mean, when we got there, you were on your way out. Mm-hmm. Our freshman class coming in, we were the first class that for Coach Williams, where he had his full allotment of scholarships. We could play him postseason. We can play him live television. It's our first year of probation. Yeah. And I remember my freshman year, man, like we are getting our heads handed to us every single night in the ACC. I think we were picked last. We finished next to last. That was no fun, man. And fast forward, and nobody knew this at the time. We get a guy named Joe Smith, who turned out to be pretty damn good. Keith Booth, who was a former AAU teammate of mine, those two guys come in with the crop of guys that we had before, with the guys you just mentioned, Johnny and X-Ree and Mario Lucas and everything. And just to be able to see the transformation within 10 to 12 months. I mean, we would literally, you could walk up and get a ticket in Cole Fieldhouse my freshman year, no matter who we were playing for the most part. Right. And then the following year, we start the season and we beat Georgetown, who's nationally ranked, I think they were number 12 or 13 in the country. We beat them on ESPN. We start the ACC season at 4-0. We become nationally ranked. And to see, we came home from Georgia Tech, I think. We get home around midnight and we're pulling up the hill to Cole Fieldhouse. Mind you, we got Carolina coming up that Tuesday, I think, Monday or Tuesday. And we're coming up the hill and you see these people outside and you're like, what's going on? And it hits you. These people laying, they're sitting outside in tents to get tickets.
Yeah, man.
So to see, man, all that stuff come full circle, man. And, that's why to this day, I'm like, if you're a fan of Maryland basketball, that's great, man. But if you haven't been in it, you have no idea. You have no idea, man. And to see it come from where it came from to where it slowly get built to not only an NCAA tournament appearance, but a Sweet 16, then another one, and then years later, 2 Final Fours and a national championship, man. Like, it means the world to me.
Yeah. So now you off into your coaching career, man. You've played for, mentioned earlier, some legendary coaches, and Coach Wooten at the high school level, Coach Williams at the college level. What did you take away from those guys and that you apply now to your process?
For Coach Wooten, the attention to fundamentals, in terms of on the court stuff, it wasn't about the X's and O's and everything. People would ask me all the time, man, what sets did you guys run at the math that made you guys so good? And I tell them we worked on ball handling, we worked on passing with our right hand, our left hand. We worked on setting screens and using screens. And that was pretty much it. So it's just the fundamentals, man, and attention to detail with fundamentals. And the other thing I took from him, and being a dad now who actually has sons that play sports, I really appreciate it. Coach Wooten was the ultimate teacher of not just your particular sport, in this case basketball, but just of life. And every day, man, he was giving you some nuggets on how to be the best person you can be, the best basketball player that you can be, and eventually the best dad and husband that you can be. And I'm always going to be thankful for that. I always carry that with me. And Coach Williams, the biggest thing I took, man, from Coach Williams, man, Gary, you had to bring it like every day. It didn't matter if it was in practice. It didn't matter if you were playing against Morgan State or Carolina on national television, man, you had to bring it. And that's what I bring with me now, man, just that passion for like every day. Let's push it to the limit, man. Let's push it to the limit. And the other thing, which I love even to this day, man, I just talked to Coach Williams this morning, is like, he's always got this underdog mentality, man, like this cage, this animal that's just in the corner and he's fighting for his life. I take that with me to this day, man.
I can identify with that for sure. I know exactly what
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, so you've been a high school coach and college coach. You've had some success with individuals and the team. 3 out of the last 5 seasons, you've had the most improved player. AJ Wilson, my dog out there, got him one. And you had some team success also too. Most non-conference wins in GMU schools history, set records in the A10 victories and road wins and best ever tournament seeds. From your experience, what would you say to a high school kid? What's the biggest adjustment moving from high school to the college ranks?
Few things, man. One, the speed of the game, like every action, offensively, defensively, because you're playing against a higher number of players. It's not in high school, right? High school, you may have the opposing team may have two pretty good players. One of them's a Division I ball player. You're at the Division I level. Everybody has Division I basketball players, and you have very good coaches. So from a defensive standpoint in particular, man, like, it's not just your job to guard your man. Like, where are you supposed to be when you're in this particular ball screen coverage? Like, what's your rotation? What are you supposed to be communicating to your teammates? And because a lot of high school players, they don't talk. They don't talk, man, when they play.
So cool.
Yeah, they cool, man. And they're not being demanded to talk and communicate with their teammates. Now we got to teach them how to communicate, not just talk and make noises, but like effective communication. So I think that's one of the biggest things, man. And then from a physical standpoint, you're going to be playing against guys. You come in as a 17, 18-year-old kid, you're competing against guys who are 19, 20, 21 years old, even older now because of the fact that you have so many guys who took advantage of the COVID year. I mean, we just played against a guy 2 consecutive games. We played against players, they're in their 6th year. These guys are 25 years old playing college basketball. But I think that's the biggest thing, man. Those 2 things in particular, the speed of the game, with the communication and everything, and then physically, man. Like when I came in, well, I thought I was a pretty good player coming out of high school, and Juice, man, Kevin McClinton. I felt I was more talented than Kevin. Kevin was going to be the returning starting point guard. I'm like, man, I could take his spot. I could be the point guard. Man, Kevin was 6'4", 210.
Strong
I came in shoulders, yeah, man, hips, everything. I came in at 5'11", 6 foot, 155, 158 pounds. Like, man, it was that's night and day, bro. So, that's the biggest thing, man. And try to convey those things to players, man, is really important. Obviously, everybody wants to come in and play as early as possible. They want to play a lot of minutes early. And as a coach, man, one of the things that I try to really hang my hat on is being a great communicator and being an honest communicator with that potential student athlete and his parents and whoever else is in his corner. It's like, hey, I get it. I want him to play. He ain't ready yet. But I guarantee you, if he does X, Y, and Z on a consistent basis, in addition to film study, and in addition to putting his own work in with his teammates or with the coach or a graduate assistant, he'll get there. But it's going to take some time. This is a process. But everybody wants things, man, like right away. And unfortunately, that's just not the way it is.
Communication, man. All about that communication for sure. That helps smooth things over, because I'm sure, everyone goes in to situations with preconceived notions, but hey, at the end of the day, they all show you. They show you who's supposed to play, how many minutes, and all of those type of things. So,
hey, Wiz, you know how it is, man. Like, I tell the parent, hey, come and see practice. This ain't no popularity contest. Like, we're gonna play the guys that can help us keep our job. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. So speaking of that, the Terps, they're going through a little turmoil right now, and so what's your take on the current situation with Coach Turgeon's early departure?
I didn't like the way that it ended from the standpoint of those guys came in to play for him, and I know it got rough. Our Maryland fans, man, they're passionate, right? And the discussions that I've had with Coach Turgeon in the past, we would joke and everything, and he would talk about how the fans want him and everything. I'm like, Coach, like, it's par for the course, bro. This is what it is in the DMV, especially in College Park. It just is what it is. So I didn't like the way that it ended. I think a lot of it, man, I remember, you and I talked about it the day of the game, but we had this game scheduled with Maryland, who were going to come over there. And I remember Coach English, when we did get it on the books, now he was like, hey, man, we're like, what do you think? You think we got a good shot? And I said, I'm looking at the roster. I had played, had coached against a couple of those guys before who transferred in. I'm like, these guys are good players, but I didn't think the combination of the talent meshed with it was going to lead to success at the level that they were hoping to. Fats Russell came from our league here in the A10, very good point guard. He's a scoring point guard who needs space. He's not going to be a half court guy. Transition, you get him an open court, he can do some things. Not the best shooter, but can make a shot. And Big Q in the middle, he's your traditional back to the back big. He's not going to be rim running like a deer, like some bigs do. Like, you got to get him in the half court. So I'm thinking to myself going into that game, I had to scout for it. I'm like, we keep Fats out of transition, and we can double team Big Q because he has a high turnover rate when he is around bodies and double teams and everything. We got a shot. Obviously you keep him off the glass and everything. But I just didn't think that a lot of the pieces that they had coming into the season actually it fit. And I thought that was a big part of their undoing on this season, man. But moving forward, I just think it's so important, man, that I get it. I hear the different names being mentioned for the job and everything, and that stuff will flesh itself out in the next few months. But I mean, bro, you gotta bring Terrapins on the bench. You gotta have people who have actually have put that uniform on, who have blood, sweat, and tears, Maryland blood. I just think that's so big, man. I mean, you look at Carolina, you look at Duke. Everybody talks about, they don't like Carolina or Duke and everything. I don't like them either. But one thing that I do love about them is how they take care of their own. And that's what they've always been about. It's the reason why they've had such tradition and they've had a tremendous amount of success over a period of years.
Yeah, you make a great point there. When those guys, when head coaches leave from those universities, the succession plan doesn't even include anybody outside of the university. So, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that we can establish a type of tradition and culture here just like that as well. So look, man, I appreciate the conversation, all the knowledge from you, man. I just got one more question for you. So
yeah.
The viewers love to hear, man. Please tell me something about yourself that most do not know.
I'm gonna say I told you I love playing football, man. I was a pretty damn good quarterback, man.
I was a quarterback. All right.
I was a good quarterback, man. I was never one of them. I'm a point guard, man. I had to be in control in some way, shape, or form. But my left tackle at the time, he ended up going to play at Archbishop Carroll. His name was George McDaniels, and then he eventually became the quarterback at Syracuse. So I'm looking years later, I'm like, man, he was my left tackle. I could have been in the league playing quarterback, man. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, and obviously, man, you talked about this before. People will not know that my senior year, when I was at the Mather, I would actually make my trip like 2 or 3 days a week around lunchtime because I didn't have a full schedule. My day is done around noon. I would drive down Route 1, park on campus, probably illegally, and I would go and sit with you and Garfield Smith and Wayne Bristol. And we would sit around and watch The Young and the Restless at 12:30. Yeah. And you would give me a haircut once every 2 weeks or so. So Walt Williams was my barber. I'm sitting there like, this is your barber, bro. This is a college All-American who's going to be a lottery pick that's taking his time to cut my hair. So for people who want to know why I chose the University of Maryland, Lynn Bias 1, Walt the Wizard Williams is number 2.
Kept that haircut fresh, bro. Kept that hairline tight, man. Believe it. Yes, sir. I remember those days, man. That's so funny to hear that. I certainly was your barber for sure, man. Hey, look, Sim. Hey, I appreciate you taking the time out to talk with us. Good luck on the rest of the season, man. And man, we're gonna hope to hear your name and thrown around, and hopefully we can see you at some point at the University of Maryland, brother.
Man, I appreciate you, Wiz. Thanks so much for all you do, man. Bro, you've been so big for me, man, personally. I don't know what trajectory my life would have taken had I not gone to University of Maryland, man. But the fact that you were a big part of that says a lot, man. I really appreciate you.
To host a fan show or appear as a fan on a fan show, create a profile in Fan Media Network. Then look for the news page in our website and fan show resources page. Help yourself. We give show hosts a show graphic in team colors, a simple short show format, tips on pre- and post-production, ideas to get fans and guests on your show, Apple News distribution and show sponsorship sales and services to help featured show hosts earn money. Show hosts use our iPhone app to publish their shows. Our website supports Android users.